Most people misunderstand strength. They believe strength is about holding on to relationships, holding on to pride, holding on to arguments, holding on to past versions of themselves. Society praises those who never give up. But there is a truth rarely spoken. Sometimes the strongest thing a person can do is release their grip. Because holding on is easy when the heart is attached. Letting go requires something far more difficult: clarity. Look around you. Many people are not strong. They are simply afraid of loss. They stay in toxic relationships. They cling to dead ambitions. They hold grudges that poison their own peace. Not because these things deserve loyalty, but because letting go feels like failure. But wisdom teaches a different lesson. Letting go is not surrender. It is discernment. It is the ability to recognize when something no longer belongs in your life, and having the discipline to walk away. Attachment feels natural. Humans are wired to bond with people, identities, and outcomes. But attachment also creates suffering. When we attach ourselves too deeply to something, we give it power over our emotional stability. If it disappears, we collapse. This is why many people live in constant anxiety. They fear losing what they depend on: relationships, status, recognition, control. But the Stoic mind understands something profound. Anything you cannot lose already owns you. If your peace depends on something external, then your peace is fragile. True strength is not measured by how tightly you hold something. It is measured by how calmly you can release it. This does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. The calm mind enjoys what exists, without chaining its happiness to permanence, because everything in life eventually changes. Relationships shift, circumstances evolve, people grow apart. Those who resist these changes suffer. Those who accept them evolve. Walking away is one of the most misunderstood actions in life. People think it means defeat, but often, walking away is the ultimate victory over ego. The ego wants to prove something. It wants the last word. It wants revenge. It wants validation. So when conflict arises, the ego demands engagement. Arguments escalate. Pride takes control. And both sides leave more wounded than before. But the disciplined individual operates differently. They ask a simple question: is this battle worth my peace? If the answer is no, they walk away. Not dramatically, not emotionally, simply, quietly. And that quiet exit is often the most powerful move possible, because walking away requires emotional mastery. It means you are no longer controlled by the need to win every fight. You are guided by something deeper: inner stability. Letting go is terrifying for one reason. It forces us to face uncertainty. When we release something familiar, we step into the unknown, and the human mind fears the unknown more than almost anything else. So people stay in situations that slowly drain them, because familiarity feels safer than uncertainty, even when that familiarity is painful. But growth has always demanded a price, and that price is leaving behind what once defined you. Every transformation requires a release. The old identity must dissolve. The old environment must change. The old patterns must disappear. Without letting go, evolution becomes impossible. The strongest individuals understand this cycle. They do not cling to past versions of themselves. They allow those versions to die, and in doing so, they create space for something stronger to emerge. There's a strange peace that arrives when a person truly masters letting go. Suddenly, life becomes lighter. Arguments lose their importance. Opinions lose their power. Old wounds lose their grip, because the mind is no longer chained to the past. It moves forward, quietly, calmly, freely. The person who masters letting go cannot easily be manipulated. You cannot threaten them with loss. You cannot trap them with emotional dependency. You cannot control them through attachment, because they have already faced the hardest lesson. Everything in life is temporary, and they are at peace with that truth. This is the final test of strength. Not how fiercely you fight to keep something, but how gracefully you can release it when the moment comes. Because when a person reaches that level of discipline, they become something rare, unburdened by the past, unshaken by change, uncontrolled by fear. And from that place of freedom, their strength becomes unbreakable. Most people do not realize how heavy the past truly is. They carry it everywhere: memories of betrayal, old failures, conversations that ended badly, people who left without explanation. These memories slowly become chains, invisible chains, but chains nonetheless. And the strange thing is this: the chains are rarely placed by others, they are placed by ourselves. Every time we replay an old argument, every time we imagine what we should have said, every time we wish something had ended differently, we tighten those chains. The past becomes a prison we willingly revisit. But there is a quiet realization that eventually arrives. The past cannot be rewritten. It cannot be repaired. It cannot be relived. It can only be released. And the moment you stop feeding the past with your attention, its power fades. Not instantly, but gradually, like a storm losing strength after exhausting itself. Letting go is not forgetting. It is simply refusing to let yesterday control tomorrow. Emotional distance is often misunderstood. People confuse it with coldness, but they are not the same. Coldness is the absence of feeling. Distance is the presence of control. A calm individual still experiences emotions. They still care. They still feel disappointment, anger, and sadness, but they are not consumed by these emotions. They observe them, like clouds passing through the sky, and then they allow them to pass. Most people react immediately when something hurts them. They argue. They defend themselves. They demand explanations. But emotional distance changes the entire dynamic. Instead of reacting, you pause. Instead of attacking, you observe. Instead of clinging, you release. This pause between stimulus and response is where true power lives, because when you create space between emotion and action, you become difficult to control. The world cannot easily manipulate someone who refuses to react impulsively. And when you combine emotional distance with the discipline of letting go, you become even more dangerous, because now, very little has the ability to disturb your peace. There is another strange effect that happens when you finally let go of something. Truth begins to reveal itself. When you stop chasing people, you discover who actually values your presence. When you stop forcing relationships, you discover which connections were genuine. When you stop begging for understanding, you discover who was truly listening. Attachment clouds judgment. It makes us ignore warning signs. It makes us tolerate disrespect. It makes us believe in illusions. But distance clears the mind. And once the mind becomes clear, reality becomes impossible to ignore. Sometimes letting go reveals painful truths: that someone never respected you, that an environment was quietly destroying your growth. But painful truth is still better than comfortable illusion, because truth allows you to move forward. Illusion keeps you trapped. There is a level of mental freedom very few people experience. It belongs to those who have mastered detachment. These individuals still participate in life. They still build relationships. They still pursue ambitions. But they do so with a different mindset. They understand that everything is temporary. And because of this understanding, they do not cling. They appreciate, they experience, but they remain internally free. If a relationship ends, they mourn briefly, then they move forward. If a plan fails, they adjust their path. If people misunderstand them, they allow the misunderstanding to exist. Their identity does not depend on constant validation. This mindset makes life far lighter, because the unattached mind is not constantly defending itself against loss. It flows with change instead of resisting it. And that flexibility creates resilience. Resilience creates calm, and calm creates strength. At the highest level of personal discipline, letting go becomes effortless, not because life stops presenting challenges, but because the mind no longer tries to control everything. There is a quiet wisdom that develops, a recognition that some things must end, some people must leave, some chapters must close, and when those moments arrive, the wise do not resist. They accept the transition. Like the changing of seasons, there is no anger, no desperate attempt to hold the leaves on the tree, only acceptance that growth requires cycles, and so they release what no longer belongs. They step forward into the unknown, calm, unburdened, free. This is the final test of strength, not how fiercely you fight to keep everything, but how gracefully you can release what was never meant to stay. And once you pass that test, life becomes something different, lighter, quieter, clearer, because the person who has learned to let go has nothing left to fear.